Welcome back to my channel. It has been a while. I feel like I say that every time I upload a video. For those of you who don't know, I am an artist. I would love to show you some of my work, but I don't paint people with clothes on. So it's not the most appropriate for all audiences. I'm looking around, this is my studio by the way. I'm looking around and there's not a lot that I can show you. I can show you one of the commissions that I do. I do portraits, dog paintings, wedding photos, so these are a bit more appropriate. So yeah, there's that. Okay, cute little baby. I feel like I should address this on my face. Let's not talk about it. I got in a fight with a crow. I don't know why I said that. That didn't happen. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this. Have I even said what's happening? What is happening is that I am going to take you through the process of painting a portrait. I studied art for maybe like 7 years. So I feel like I could say that I'm a professional. Obviously there's a long way for me to go. I'm still young. I'm still learning. But because I have a few years under my belt, I thought that I would take you through how I go about doing things, and hopefully you can learn something, whether you're an amateur or you've never painted in your life. I just want to help you. If you're just interested in, being entertained, then you're welcome too. So first of all, I feel like I am not giving the artist vibes that I need to be giving. Let me get in my arty, farty mode. How do I look? I think the hat might be a little bit much. As cute as this is, it is not the most practical thing. It's a piece of MDF that I cut out. Through this video, I'm gonna drop in some top tips. Number one, get yourself a boiler suit. I went 3 years at university, not owning any overalls, and that resulted in almost every piece of my wardrobe being covered in splatters of paint. Another tip that I really want to mention is that palettes like these and palettes like these aren't the greatest ones to use. This is what I use. It's a mirror. Anything that kind of has a glassy surface, that is what I recommend. The reason why I say glass is because the paint scrapes off really easily. I'm scraping everything off and we've got the paint accumulating here. With oil paint in particular, there is a lot of toxic chemicals, especially if you use turpentine. These are things that you don't want to be washing down the drain and putting into the ocean. So what you want is a little paint bin. Just put it in here and I wait until it's full to the brim and then dispose of it properly. If you're using oil paints in particular, it's really important that you do this. Okay, so it's at this point that the builders arrive, so I have to do a voiceover, otherwise you hear drilling the whole time in the background. Here is my canvas of choice, a wooden canvas, and here's my primer, gesso. I'm going to apply it in thin layers, 2 thin layers, making sure that the texture is minimal so it doesn't come through the painting, and leaving it to dry in between each coat. Then here's my daylight lamp, which ensures that I get great lighting no matter the time or the weather, etc. And here is my reference photo, my cute baby George. Okay, so using a coloured pencil, you can use anything. This is my preference for the day. Sometimes I use a paintbrush, sometimes I use graphite. It really depends on how you're feeling. I'm going to really roughly sketch onto the canvas where I want everything to lay out. Really roughly, this is just to figure out the composition. Then I'm going to go into an app and overlay the canvas onto the reference photo. Right, this might seem like cheating to some of y'all, but this is my top tip when it comes to getting your likeness correct. The sketch is the most important part of your painting if you're trying to get good likeness. Overlay the image, go back and forth, making sure that all the shapes, features, perspectives are correct, and then that means that my painting is going to look like the person intended. Here I'm just showing you where I've outlined the highlights and the lowlights, and then I'm fixing it all in with hairspray. You should use fixative, but I ran out. Now I've put 2 hours into the prep. Like I said, it's the most important part, so take your time with it. And then the exciting part comes and it's time to paint. Here's my paint palette, you guys. You might think I'm absolutely crazy. I'm just using ultramarine blue, cadmium red, and lemon yellow with some titanium white. I could save myself a lot of time and a lot of sweat and tears if I got myself more paint, but when the paint tubes cost about 70 quid, and also you want to push yourself to be more experimental with colour, this works just fine. When it comes to mixing, I would love to give you guys a really in-depth commentary on how I do things, but colour theory is by far the most complex thing about art. I could talk about it for days. So for now, you're just gonna have to kind of watch what I'm doing, and if you want more details, then I can go into that in a future video. Here's a time lapse of me putting the base layer down, not really thinking too much, just slapping the colour on and watching hours and hours of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in the background. Don't judge me. Okay, so we've got the base layer on. You can see it's looking a bit janky. Don't worry, the beauty of oil painting is that those are going to stay nice and wet on the canvas and we can return to it. Now we're going to do the eyes. People love to paint eyes, so I thought I'd go a bit more in depth with this. I'm doing the whites of the eyes, but whites of the eyes aren't really white, so we're going to get a blue tint and put that in there. At first it's going to look really dark, but then we're going to go into the iris and start with the darkest shade, filling that all in. Really blocky, not thinking too much about it because we'll return again to blend things out. I'm taking a really small clean brush to blend things in, and then we're going to do something that a lot of people forget to do, which is blend the iris into the whites of the eyes. Okay, we don't want a clean line between the two, it's just not realistic. And then we're going to take the highlights and put that quite messily into the pupil, and we're going to take a really dark shade of blue to add the pupil in. Okay, I like to avoid using black. I haven't used black in the entirety of this painting, and I won't do because I think black is quite flat. We're going to take a precision brush and really gently add in the whites of the eyes, not the whites, the highlights, you guys know what I mean. And there we are, that's the eyes so far. We'll return to that later. Taking a clean fluffy brush, we're now going to start blending the skin, and you can see here it's going to give a bit of an airbrushed look. With some patience, going in and cleaning the brush really frequently, because the key to good blending is a clean brush and a lot of patience. Okay, this part's quite exciting. We're going in on the background, and like I said, I don't use black unless I'm really forced to. So using a really dark shade, we're gonna add in the background quite messily, and just outlining things. This gives things more context, and it will make your painting come to life a bit more. Very exciting. We're blending everything together quite roughly because we're not looking for photorealism. We're giving an impression of what's going on. And here is my absolute top tip. I've been painting for years, and I have only started doing this recently. Blending the portrait into the background. Okay, you guys will see the difference. Look at that. Okay, there's the after and there's the before. You're really taking your art from amateur to professional when you do tiny little details like this. Okay, you guys have to forgive me. I feel like I'm chatting so much, but I feel like there's so much that I want to say about it. I'm going into details now. So for parts like this, I guess you kind of just have to watch. I'm putting in the tiny little details, things like eyelashes, things like creases. What do I even say? I say nothing, and you watch. Okay, here's a fun little part where I make a mistake. I was trying to do his dimples, and I just chose the wrong shade, too dark, too grey. It looks pretty awful, so I blend that out. Okay, I just left that in there to show you, even though I am perfect, I do occasionally make mistakes. Here's the eyebrows. Okay, using a really thin brush, we're gonna really chip in at it. I don't know how else to describe it. Using really light hands, Yeah, it took me a long time to figure this out. Hair is not easy, so don't beat yourself up if it doesn't come to you very easily. Okay, moving into the final stages, which is his clothes and his blanket. I feel like this is going really fast. It didn't go fast in real life, but we're starting with the low lights, then the medium tones, and then the highlights. Don't ask me why, I just came to realize that this is definitely the best way of doing things. Kind of outline with the darker shades where all the shadows are, and then we're going in with the medium tones, which you can see me doing here, and then once we're content with that, we can go in with the highlights. Okay, so now going in with the highlights using quite a heavy hand and a sketchy movement. You might have noticed that I do this a lot, particularly in the background. I used to be really caught up on photorealism and making my paintings look like high definition photographs. Lately, I think I've matured a bit more to realize that being able to appreciate a painting on two levels is more exciting. What I mean by this is, take Impressionism for example. Up close is a whole lot of textures and brushstrokes and weird shapes, and then you stand back and you get that photo-esque experience. Art is about creating an illusion, so if it can be really, really messy and crazy up close, and then you step back and you see something that you were never able to see before, how exciting is that? Okay, we're doing something that a camera just can't replicate. Keep that in mind when you're painting. Okay, so here's the painting at the end of the day. I wish I was happy with it. I am, and I'm not. But you know, that is the life of an artist. Here I am messing around with the lighting, by the way, trying to figure out if it looks better with or without. Let me not say anything. You guys just... Okay, I'm back from my brief mental breakdown. I'm just showing you here the things that need to be finished, his hand. And I'm also contemplating whether I'm going to do the pattern on his shirt. Spoiler alert, I do not do that. Sometimes I feel like unless it has like significant meaning, it can be a bit distractful. Is that a word? Especially if it's done badly. Sometimes it's best to leave certain details out. I also just want to show you what my paint palette looks like at the end of the day. Kind of boring. Okay, now we're at the next day. We're on the next day. You guys, I've been talking too much. I've forgotten how to English. Basically, I did the hand really, really sketchy, and then I called it a day. Like I said before, I should have been really happy with this. It's not a bad painting, especially when you consider that I only put one day into it. But I was not as happy as I wanted to be, so I was like, let's wrap this up. Using the end of my paintbrush with the wet paint underneath, I'm just etching in my signature and the year, because I'm so professional. Here it is! I'm really sorry for shouting. I'm going crazy. Here's a montage. Here's the details. Oh, you guys, it is cute. It is cute. Also, remember to paint the edges of your canvas. There's another top tip for you. Thank you for watching, guys. If you want to see Georgia's reaction, stay tuned to right now. Like and subscribe. I'm going to show you the painting of you for the first time. Yes! Who's that?
It's not Dada, it's George.
Who's that? Do you like it?
Dada.
Do you like it? It's George.
That's really good.
You like